Strap into your seats and get ready. It's time for the Mortarpod.
Hey everybody, Alex Stevenson and Jake Face here. Welcome to this week's episode of the Mortarpod. We've got a lot of content to bring to you this week, so we're going to jump right into it. We're going to try and keep this podcast right about an hour. Let's jump right into Make-A-Wish right away. Make-A-Wish is the segment every week where we take any movie, TV show, book, and take suggestions and then turn it into a custom magic set. So Evil Dead was suggested, but I know the third movie in that trilogy much better, Army of Darkness. Very funny, campy old movie. So with the help of Jake, who's never even seen the movie, we managed to design a pretty cool looking set and a pretty fun one. But let's take a look. All right, so main protagonist, Ash Williams. He goes back in time to medieval times in Army of Darkness. He is a 1 red and a white for a 2/2 first strike creature, and he has a mechanic called Wield, where equip abilities that target this creature cost 1 less to activate, and this creature gets +1/+1 for each equipment attached to it. Are there any, what are some similar cards to that, Jake, from the past that sort of have the bonuses for equipment? There's some stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I think they're mostly in like Mirrodin or Scars Block. I know like Loxodon Punisher has that ability. Can't really think of any others off the top of my head, I guess. But yeah, they definitely have done them before. It's not something totally out of the realm, I guess, of the possible.
Mm-hmm. This one in particular is better just because it makes equip costs cheaper as well as giving additional buffs from the equipment, so very combo-y.
Mm-hmm.
Next we have Henry the Red. So immediately as Ash Williams gets sent back in time to this medieval alternate dimension, he encounters Duke Henry the Red's army and King Arthur. So Henry the Red is 1 and 2 red, and he's 2/3, and he has a mechanic called Grudge. When this creature enters the battlefield, choose a color. Each creature your opponent controls of the chosen color gets -1/-1 until end of turn. And then he also has a static ability. Other red creatures you control get +1/+0 and have haste. And then King Arthur is the who's at war with Henry the Red, which is why they both have Grudge. And King Arthur is 1 and 2 white for a 2/3 creature that also has Grudge, and his static ability is other white creatures you control get +0/+1 and have Vigilance. So they're doing combat in the beginning. King Arthur immediately assumes Ash Williams is part of Henry the Red's group, so he decides to take Ash Williams prisoner and throw him in the pit alongside all of Henry the Red and his men. So as they travel back to King Arthur's kingdom, Sheila the Fair Maiden, the next card, approaches King Arthur, asks about her brother, who is in warfare with Henry the Red's army. King Arthur informs her that her brother died, so in a fit of rage, she attacks Ash Williams, who she assumes is part of Henry the Red's group, and starts pulling his hair and, spitting on him and stuff like that. So not the best impression for those future lovebirds, but she's 1 white for a 1/2 legendary human creature. She has tap, choose 1, prevent all damage to target creature, or target player gains 3 life. And then her activated ability is 4 black, put 2 +1/+1 counters on her, gain control of it, and then she becomes a black zombie demon in addition to her other colors and types, and any player may activate this ability. So she gets kidnapped by a flying deadite in the movie, and the deadites are the zombie demon creatures that are brought back by the Necronomicon. And she gets picked up, and she's brought to the main antagonist of the story, Evil Ash, and she's possessed and becomes a bad person. But she eventually becomes good again. But I just wanted to make sure that her activated ability kind of evoked the fact that she gets taken and possessed at some point in the story. Finally, we have the Pit on this page, which is a legendary land, a mythic legendary land. This is where Ash is taken Before he's thrown in, he witnesses someone else getting thrown in and a geyser of blood coming out of the pit, so it's kind of a scary point in the movie. So the pit is a legendary land. It has tap, sack a creature, add 2 black to your mana pool. It also has 3 and 2 black, tap, each opponent sacrifices a creature, and then 6 colorless, sacrifice the pit, and any player may activate this ability. So they can get rid of it, but it costs them quite a bit. And if they don't ever get the 6 mana, you're just constantly making your opponent sack creatures. So I kind of like the pit. I feel like it's a pretty powerful card.
Yeah, I think that effect is pretty sweet.
I think they could actually print something like that on a land. It's pretty cool. It'd be an awesome commander card, but I guess someone would probably inevitably pay the 6 if they're ramping.
Which would make it totally a justified commander card then.
I guess that's true. So, okay, that's the beginning. He gets thrown in the pit. The next page, we see the chainsaw. So the wise man ends up throwing Ash the chainsaw. And chainsaw is an equipment card for 1 cost. It equips for 2. It gives the equipped creature +1/+0. And whenever a creature blocks equipped creature, chainsaw deals 2 damage to the blocking creature. I like chainsaw a lot. I feel like it kind of evokes what a chainsaw would do. If someone was blocking, you'd just, be throwing the chainsaw around and dealing damage to anything that gets in your way. So I think that's kind of fitting. I like it. Next we have Boomstick. Boomstick is a 4 mana equipment card. It enters the battlefield with 2 shell counters on it, and then it equips for 4, and it gives the equipped creature tap, remove a shell counter from Boomstick, and it deals 3 damage to target creature or player. If you've seen Army of Darkness, he refers to the shotgun as Boomstick to the medieval people because, obviously they'd never seen a gun before, so shotgun wasn't going to mean anything to them. But I like this card. It's clunky costed, but it's a pretty powerful effect since it gives you a couple lightning bolts to throw at any target you want. Finally, the last equipment, we have Mechanical Hand. This is 1 costing artifact equipment card. You can only attach it to a creature who has received damage, such as Ash, who at the beginning of the movie had to cut his hand off with the chainsaw when it gets possessed. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has wield, and then it equips for 1. And then the flavor text is groovy because in the movie, after he creates the mechanical hand, there's a cool montage, and he creates it, and then he crushes a iron chalice, and he says groovy. So it was kind of a cool scene. Yep, so those are all the equipment cards we made for this set. Next is Klaatu Barada Nikto, which are the keywords from The Day the Earth Stood Still from the 1950s, but kind of like a homage to that. They brought it back for Army of Darkness in kind of a comical way. So the wise man informs Ash that he's the chosen one. He must save them from the book, the Necronomicon, the evil book, and he tells him to recite those words to get rid of the power of the evil book. Unfortunately, Ash forgets the words and says it incorrectly, but this card is, I made it if he said the words correctly, so it's called Klaatu Barada Nikto. For 1 white and an instant, you get to exile a black permanent, which would be the Necronomicon. And then the flavor text is, when thou retrievest the book from its cradle, you must recite the words. So that's what the wise man says to Ash. And unfortunately, Ash screws it up. So the Necronomicon comes back, and that's the next card here. We've got Necronomicon Ex Mortis, 1 and 3 black for a legendary artifact. When it enters the battlefield, exile all creature cards in all graveyards, and you get 2/2 zombie demon creature tokens tapped for each card exiled this way. And then when Necronomicon is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you exile all zombie and demon creatures. So you said some other similar cards to this, the Grimoire of the Dead. What did that do, Jake, back in Innistrad?
You had to pay 4, tap it, and discard a card to put I can't remember what kind, but a counter on it. And then after you had 3, you could sack it to return all creatures from all graveyards to the battlefield under your control.
That's right. I remember that.
I think they
was
were
actually
tapped and zombies.
It was kind of a fun limited card. I feel like I tried it a couple times. It was difficult, but if you could get to a late game point or play against self-mill, it could be really good. So Necronomicon, I felt like this flavorfully evoked it well because as soon as you activate the Necronomicon, all of the dead return. So next page, He inadvertently activates Necronomicon, which then triggers Evil Ash coming back, actually from Ash. And Evil Ash is 1 and 2 black for a 2/3 legendary zombie demon creature. It has Grudge as well, and other black creatures you control get +1/+1. And main antagonist of the story, of course, Ash eventually beats him. And then finally we have Deadite Shambler, which is a 1-drop 1/1 common zombie demon soldier creature. When it attacks, it gains Death Touch until end of turn, and then 2 black, you can regenerate it. So that's it for this little mini set. We kind of blazed through them real quick, but that's only because we have quite a few Odyssey cards to get through. So hope you enjoyed this week's Make a Wish. Feel free to submit some more. Jake, I'm going to let you talk a lot more for these Odyssey cards because I think you know the cycles a lot better than I do. But let's get into it. Cyclical Evolution. Cyclical Evolution. So we're going to run through the cycles of Odyssey. Starting the Odyssey block off. Were you surprised at how many cycles there were in this set, Jake, or did you know already?
I kind of knew that there were going to be a lot. It is surprising how many are just complete trash, though. That's the part that really irks me about this block in particular, is that it's just not really a powerful set. And there's so many cards in it that it drives me crazy, actually, because it's just like they really were powering down still. And like we had talked about earlier, this is back from, like, they're still reeling from Urza's block, so everything went way, way down in power. And luckily, after this block, they realized that they had kind of depowered it so much that they wanted to ramp it back up. So they went into Mirrodin, but then they overdid it there too.
Oh, no. So it's like the waxing and waning of magic power.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, as Jake said, kind of a low point in terms of power level in Magic history. But let's take a look here. So first we have a land cycle, a common land cycle. I'll let you kind of take the reins on these.
Yeah, they all come into play tapped, and they all tap for 1 mana of a specific color. And then you can tap and sacrifice them to add a mana of any color. And like in terms of fixing, they're kind of lackluster, I would say.
Yeah.
There definitely have been better fixing cards. I don't know. This cycle, especially on like the toes of the invasion block, comes into play tapped, and then you can sack them for 2 colored mana. That cycle, it really is not the greatest thing ever.
I agree. I don't want to sack lands to fix myself. Sacking lands sets you back so much, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, definitely.
Yeah, and I don't think that these were well received even for limited play. It just kind of a miss, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe if there was a big reward with a bunch of cards for having lands in your graveyard, I could understand, but there's only like Terravore, really.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'll just quickly go through the names. Abandoned Outpost is the white one. Seafloor Debris is the blue one. Bog Wreckage is the black one. Ravaged Highlands is the red one. And Timberland Ruins is the green one. But I have to agree with your assessment there, Jake. Pretty weak cycle. But let's go to the next land cycle. This one is a bit cooler, so go ahead and you can talk about these.
Yeah, they're kind of pain lands. They come in untapped, which is already like a plus. They tap for a specific color of mana again, based on which one it is, and they're all like themed around an arena. So, just to run through the names: it's Nomad Stadium, Cephalid Coliseum, Cabal Pit, Barbarian Ring, and Centaur Garden. These are all playable in limited for sure. The blue one and the red one have seen constructed play. Even in Legacy, the blue one, I think, gets play. So overall, it's just a pretty good cycle. And in my opinion, because there wasn't a lot of gold in Odyssey block in the first place, they could have just gotten away with printing just this and done something else with those 5 other common slots that they wasted on the shitty lands.
Yeah. You're right. So which of these do you like the most?
I think that Cephalid Coliseum is probably the strongest just outright. drawing cards is really, really good, even though you have to discard. Barbarian Ring is a kill condition. I'd say Nomad Stadium is the worst, though, just because you can't really do much with it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. So, +4 life, draw 3, discard 3, -2 to a creature, 2 damage to any target, or +3/+3 are all of the various colors effects. Yeah, this is actually a good cycle. I'm down with this one. This one's cool. Utility lands are a lot of fun, but utility lands that just fix for you and you have to sack them, not quite as fun.
Right.
Next, we have probably the best of the land cycles. We've got Darkwater Catacombs, Sungrass Prairie, Skycloud Expanse, Shadowblood Ridge, and Mossfire Valley. Now, these all fix you for friendly colors at the cost of 1 mana, and they generate 2 mana. So, these are interesting. How did these play back in the day? Pretty good, I thought, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, like, fixing was kind of scarce in this block, but I think the big fail on these was that they didn't print, or they didn't have them produce mana without you having to have another land out, you know?
I see.
So you could never just tap them for colorless. You had to have something else going on. So, you know, in theory, somebody could land destroy like your other lands that produce mana. And in Constructed, if you only had like 2 of these out and then 2 other lands, it would be pretty quick where your opponent would be able to just screw you over, you know?
Yeah, I could see that. These were probably pretty highly played Constructed-wise at the time, though, right?
I would think so. Especially once Mirrodin came in and the fixing was kind of gone, I would think that they would be there. Because Invasion did have really good fixing, and the Pain lands were still around. So I think those were just above and beyond like what these could do for you.
I feel like we saw these or at least I've seen these in Cube as well. So I think they've at least tried them in Cube, maybe a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, at least of the land cycles we've seen, I guess it's debatable whether this is better or worse than. I gotta exit out of this real quick. Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, it's debatable whether this is better or worse than those. I guess the Threshold ones are kind of more exciting, so maybe they're a little bit better than this, a little bit more
Yeah,
fun.
I think that the Threshold ones are better. And like as soon as it went into Mirrodin, the Threshold ones would have been better too, just because multiple colors of mana weren't as necessary to have online early on. Mm-hmm. Like with Invasion block, they were probably better because you did need like fixing for sure, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But once that block rotated out, it was probably not. They weren't as good.
Okay, yeah, that's probably true. I guess it depends on how much fixing was necessary, so it's hard for me to remember. I definitely started drafting online when Judgment came out quite a bit, and that was full block draft. So, or maybe it was triple Judgment. It was probably both. I was very young when that happened. It's a long time ago now. All right, next we've got a egg cycle. So these are 1 mana artifacts that you can pay 2, sacrifice them. You get to add 2 different colors, friendly colors to your mana pool of the same that we just saw, the lands. And you also get to draw a card. So how about these? To be honest, these are a bit underwhelming on the surface, but...
Yeah, I think that they're actually really good, though, for... well, one specific, I think it's a legacy deck called Eggs.
Oh,
where
yeah.
Your only plan is to draw more cards, really. You know?
See.
So,
yeah, and then they bring it all back from their graveyard and start
and do
it
it
all over again. Right.
So that's like all that can really be said about the Eggs.
Yeah.
I mean, they're otherwise pretty unplayable.
Yeah.
They do draw you a card, though.
Yeah, I mean, they cantrip and they fix. So if this was, I guess, all the fixing they could really offer at the time, it was probably played and limited, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Not much else to say, though. Moving on. All right, we have a Desire cycle. So we have Abashan's Desire, Kamal's Desire, Seaton's Desire, Kurtar's Desire, and Patriarch's Desire. So all of these are auras with various effects, and all of them have Threshold. Do you want to make some comments on these?
I think that this was a really sweet cycle, actually. All of them are great once you get Threshold. Patriarch's Desire is cool because it's actually a removal spell, potentially. And that was true of Kurtar's Desire, too. It was actually really strong that you could just hold off a good attacker if they manage to have one, because everyone was depowered in this set. But the ones that granted bonuses like Kamal's Desire and Seton's Desire were actually very, very good.
Okay. We should probably briefly comment on what they do. So the blue one, Abashan's Desire, gives flying, and the threshold gives Shroud. Kamal's Desire gives First Strike, and then threshold gives +3/+0. Seton's Desire gives +2/+2, threshold with Lure. Kurtar's Desire makes a creature unable to attack, and then threshold can't block either. And then Patriarch's Desire is +2/-2 with threshold, an additional +2/-2. So, did you have like a personal favorite out of all of these?
I guess my personal favorite was always Seton's Desire, just because, well, I guess essentially because it was Lure, and I always like Lure effects, you know.
Yeah, in limited especially, Lure is very strong.
Mm-hmm.
So, I probably am inclined to agree with you on that one. I like that. Kamal's Desire, if you have threshold, seems very good, very powerful for the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Bashan's Desire, Shroud and Flying, some decks just can't deal with that. So
Yeah.
that also is good. Yeah, all of these, this seems like a pretty legitimate common cycle. I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah, I see, and this is why they kind of wanted to like pull back on the number of cards that they did in sets in general, because this is a huge set, and cards like this make the set look cool, but there are so many cards that are lackluster, you know.
So it makes it a lot less exciting. But
Yeah.
this is a good common cycle. I'm impressed with that one. Moving on, we've got the Burst Cycle. These are actually fun. It's debatable whether, because some of them are obviously better than others, but I'll briefly explain the Burst Cycle. So we have Life Burst, Aether Burst, Mind Burst, Flame Burst, and Muscle Burst. All of them become more powerful depending on how many Life Bursts or Burst spells with the same name that you have in your graveyard. So, for example, Life Burst gains a player 4 life at instant speed, but you gain an additional 4 life for each Life Burst in each graveyard. Aether Burst bounces creatures, but bounces more if you have more Aether Bursts in graveyard, which just seems really bonkers.
Yeah.
Mind Burst makes an opponent discard cards for 1 plus the number of Mind Bursts in all graveyards. Flame Burst deals 2 damage plus the number of all Flame Bursts in graveyards, and then Muscle Burst gives +X/+X, where X is 3 plus the number of Muscle Burst cards. So this is a common cycle, and why I think this one's so cool is in limited, these must have been like insane if you could pick up like 4 or 5 of them, you know?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think definitely the Aether Burst and Muscle Burst. Well, Aether Burst and Flame Burst are probably the best when you get them in groups. But yeah, I think that was like the key with those, that they were so good in draft, but kind of lackluster in sealed.
Mm-hmm. But even like playing too many Mind Bursts is kind of awkward, you know? You don't want to play like more than, I almost feel like you don't want to play more than 2 in a 40 card deck. I mean, if you're running like 4 Mind Bursts, you've got like, you're going to end up kind of screwing your own hand over because you just see too many of them, you know?
Yeah.
Muscle Burst, on the other hand, seems great. Pretty awesome combat trick. And we'll see a cycle soon that sort of interacts with Flame Burst and Muscle Burst. But overall, this was a fun cycle. I got behind this one. How about you?
Yeah, I think that I always like that kind of growing effect. Accumulative Knowledge and Kindle were
old school ones.
Yeah, the ones they had done beforehand.
Okay.
But I still think they're cool.
Mm-hmm. So next, we've got the Return from Graveyard cycle. So we've got Auramancer, which, as you guys remember, reprinted a few times, is a white card that allows you to return an enchantment from your graveyard to your hand. Scrivener is a blue card that lets you return an instant card from your graveyard to your hand, also brought in Vintage Masters, to note. Gravedigger, very old school zombie card, returns a creature from your graveyard to your hand. Anarchist, which I used alongside Time Stretch back in the day to piss people off. And Anarchist returns a sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. And then Cartographer, which lets you return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. So at least Cartographer, I guess, brings back that common cycle that you sack. But Still not that good. But actually,
No.
bringing back the threshold cards with Cartographers, threshold lands rather,
Yeah.
that might be pretty good.
Yeah, and I think that was like probably the best use of them in limited. And I mean, there were some rare lands like I think Petrified Field, which let you get another land back too.
Mm.
There were some cards that were potential get backs with it. It just didn't happen that often, I guess.
Yeah. What do you think about this cycle, though? It's another common cycle. Pretty powerful effects, I think.
Yeah, I think that cycle it's pretty cool. I like it a lot, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Scrivener made its way to Vintage Masters, so that's obviously a sign that it's highly played. Gravedigger has been an MVP of drafts for a long time. Great card.
Yeah.
Oromancer a little bit more narrow. Anarchist has always been very good because there's powerful sorceries in limited, and I think Cartographer's probably the weakest one, but Cartographer and Oromancer a bit underwhelming, but Gravedigger, Scrivener, and Anarchist I think turned out very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
How old's Gravedigger though? Gravedigger's way old school, isn't it?
Yeah, it's from Tempest, I think, was the first printing.
Okay, so they it's almost like they based a cycle around Gravedigger maybe.
Oh, and they had actually done the rest of the Gravedigger cycle as it is, except for Oromancer. They did it all in Exodus. They finished it up.
I see. So this is like a reboot on that cycle.
Yeah, it was Treasure Hunter was the white one though, and that got back artifacts in Exodus.
See. That's right, and that didn't feel right. So Oromancer's kind of the fix to it. All right. That another good cycle. This actually seems like this would be a fun cycle to have around in your limited, you know. It seems like any color has access to some additional value. Next cycle, we've got a land aura cycle. Caustic Tar is in M15, so that was a nice bring back. I lost to that a couple times in limited.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful if you can get that going.
It's good. We've got Animal Boneyard, which is the white one, and it gives the land tap, sack a creature, gain life to its toughness. I actually really like that card. Chamber of Manipulation lets you tap, discard a card from your hand, and gain control of target creature until end of turn. That seems insane.
Yeah. It doesn't gain haste, though.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
It doesn't gain haste.
Oh, okay. So it just basically gets rid of a blocker or lets you sort of like sacrifice them or something?
Or you can take it to get a blocker yourself if they cast pre-combat.
Oh yeah, that's really good too. Or if the creature has haste, at least you can attack with it. But that's definitely a good thing to note because once it comes into play under your control, it has Summoning Sickness again. Caustic Tar taps, makes a player lose 3 life. Steam Vines, you said, was kind of the one that's a little harder to fit and justify into this cycle, but we're going to try anyway. When you tap the land that Steam Vines is enchanting, you have to destroy it, and Steam Vines deals 1 damage to that land's controller. That player moves Steam Vines to a land of his or her choice. Okay, that one's interesting. And then finally you have Squirrel Nest, which is the green one. That gives the land tap, put a 1/1 green squirrel token into play. And that's a great one too. I think that's great. So all of them but Steam Vines seem pretty good, but I see the point of Steam Vines. It's kind of like a Stone Rain that keeps coming back, shifting around. What do you think about this cycle?
I think it's really cool. I don't really understand why they didn't have a like the red one wasn't a tap land itself. You know, they've actually had like these kind of auras before. Like Barbed Field would have been a great reprint if they just wanted to do that. You know, which is just turns a land into a pinger. But you know, I think overall the cycle is really cool.
Yeah, totally. Chamber of Manipulation kind of stands out to me as the strongest one, at least for limited purposes, just because stealing creatures, even at the cost of discarding a card from your hand, is very good. But yeah, I think you're right. All of these seem good. Animal Boneyard, even in limited, seems perfectly fine. If they're going to remove your creature anyway, sack and gain life instead. If you're about to die from like flyers, you can sack a creature with big toughness and stick around for a while. So I like that. Chamber of Manipulation we already went over. That's insane. Stealing for blocking purposes, stealing for sack purposes, very good. Caustic Tar, I've lost to it in M15, so I imagine at Odyssey time it was very good as well. Steam Vines I guess is the most unexciting, but I guess it's kind of cool that Steam Vines can theoretically enchant the land that one of these enchantments is on and get rid of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's got a practical purpose against the rest of the cards in its cycle.
Yeah, and that might be kind of their justification for it too, that it was actually the counter to all of the other ones.
Mm-hmm. Because Squirrel Nest is a great card too. Getting
Mm-hmm.
squirrels every turn at the cost of just tapping a land is pretty nice. Okay, so that's a cool cycle. What do we got next? Got the Shrine cycle. So the White Shrine, Aven Shrine, whenever a player casts a spell, the player gains X life, where X is the number of cards in all graveyards with the same name. And that's going to be a theme of all of these shrines. So, Cephalid Shrine, whenever a player casts a spell, you counter it unless that player pays X, where X is the number of cards in all graveyards with the same name as that spell. And then Cabal Shrine, whenever a player casts a spell, they have to discard X, where X is the number of cards in all graveyards with the same name. Dwarven Shrine, where whenever they cast, it deals X damage to that player, where X is twice the number of cards in all graveyards with the same name. And then the Nantuko Shrine in green, whenever a player casts a spell, they put that many 1/1 squirrel tokens into play, where X is the number of cards in all graveyards with the same name. So, do you want to make a comment on this? This is seemingly crazy for limited rare cycle.
Yeah, I feel like this doesn't make sense as a rare cycle, and in actuality, it's just kind of a dumb cycle. You know, like it really doesn't. It really isn't exciting. None of these are really that great. You know what I mean?
Well, they interact with even the first. So it's when they cast the spell, so it hasn't resolved yet. So, is that right? So it
Yeah.
doesn't affect the first of their spell.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't affect that one that they initially cast. You're right.
Okay, that's
So yeah, there has to be stuff in the graveyard. I mean, it is a graveyard themed block or set, I should say. So there's some merit to them, just a little bit though. But these should have probably all been twice the number, and like how Dwarven Shrine is twice the damage. If they had been twice, it would have probably been okay.
I think. Yeah, or they would have actually been really powerful if it had an effect on the, like it's after the spell resolves, it does it, you know?
Yeah.
Then it would have at least had a benefit with any spell, and that would have been much better. But the fact that it hurts yourself, because it's not even opponents in some cases, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's just too much bonus for your opponents. It should have been more one-sided. The fact that
Yeah.
it's just too narrow. I think that's the big problem with it.
Yeah, you invest in it, and then your opponent gets to gain life off of it and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It just,
that's
like,
a big problem. If it
or
had
you
been
take
opponents
damage, or
only
you
and it
discard cards, or
affected
you counter your spells.
yeah. Why would you want to counter your own spells? It's terrible. So
Yeah.
it should have affected the first spell. It should have only affected your opponents. It should have not been rare. Lot of issues with this cycle, unfortunately. Cool in essence, but just too narrow and not one-sided enough to be good. Next we have Aven Smokeweaver and Treetop Sentinel. These are 4-drop, 2/3 flying bird soldiers. One has pro red, one has pro green. Not too much to say about it. It's a little bit unusual to see blue guys with protections, right?
Yeah, it is. They do it once in a while, but blue doesn't typically get protection, and it's themed more around the idea that they're like an element, you know, instead of, so like they are diametrically opposed to like red or whatever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, I think that it's kind of a weird cycle, and green already doesn't really have a lot of ways to interact with flying.
So that's a big problem. Yeah.
Yeah, to really screw them out of that chance to stop a flyer with a reach creature or something like that is kind of, it's a jerk move.
Mm-hmm. These seem like excellent limited cards, so these
for
are
sure.
probably very powerful at the time. Moving on, we've got Battle of Wits and Chance Encounter. These are cool. Battle of Wits still occasionally gets a little bit of play. Well, it was in Standard recently. It's not anymore, but what was fun about Battle of Wits is you'd always know who the Battle of Wits player was at the big tournaments because they'd be the last match. But Battle of Wits is always just, it's always fun watching someone play a Battle of Wits deck. You don't want to play, you don't want to actually play against it, but watching the game is a lot of fun. So, Battle of Wits is 3 and 2 blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 200 or more cards in your library, you win the game, which is just a fun card in general. Is this the first time it was printed?
Yeah, this is the first printing of that.
Okay, very creative card. Big fan of Battle of Wits. It's just finding the brewing creativity of people who actually make 200, card decks. And the funny thing about Battle of Wits is you have to make a bigger than 200 card deck, or else
you
have
to go
win the game with
at least, I think.
So it's typically like 220 cards or 215 or something like that. Next we have Chance Encounter, which is 2 and 2 red enchantment. Whenever you win a coin flip, put a luck counter on Chance Encounter, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, if Chance Encounter has 10 or more luck counters, you win the game. So that one also very difficult to make win the game. But is this some of the earliest cards that actually say win the game on them?
I mean, Coalition Victory had come before them.
Okay.
But yeah, I think they were a little more, after they had done that with like a heavy stipulation, they were probably really excited to go into this area, because Coalition Victory never made any real tournaments decks or anything like that.
Yeah, it was a tough card to play. So
yeah,
that makes sense.
It was a lot of fun though for casual players to do it.
Oh yeah. I remember
I think these were directly made for casual players, and Battle of Wits is the only one that's ever shown up in Constructed.
Yeah. I was gonna say Trans Guild Courier was like the Coalition Victory sort of the coup de grace. They put them together.
And is there a land that has all land types or anything like that?
I'm not sure. That would be crazy. That would be cool.
Oh, it's Prismatic Omen from Shadowmoor.
Oh, yeah, that's right. No. That's right. Okay, so Battle of Wits, Chance Encounter. We're going to see the finishing up of this cycle as we progress in this block, but moving on, we've got the Vor cycle, and you're probably wondering, wait, what does Vor mean? Well, we've got Cantivore in white. It has Vigilance, and its power and toughness each equal to the number of enchantment cards in graveyards. Cognivore, which is blue, it has Flying, and its power and toughness equal to instant cards in all graveyards. Mortivore, which is black, and power and toughness equal to creature cards in all graveyards, and it has Regenerate. Magnivore, which has Haste, power and toughness each equal to number of sorcery cards in graveyards, and then Terravore, which is green, has Trample, and power and toughness equal to land cards in all graveyards. So, what did you think about this cycle, Jake?
I think it's cool. I think Mortivore and Magnivore have been able to come back, but the others are kind of lost in history.
What about Terravore? I felt like Terravore saw some
I think it's a legacy
play or something.
It's a legacy playable card, because of all the fetches and stuff like that. But as far as ones that get reprinted the most, it's Magnivore and Mortivore.
Okay.
I did feel like it was strange that the art has no real similarity between what defines a Lurgoyf,
Yeah, that's a good. Is this right at the sort of birth of Lurgoyf creature type?
No, Lurgoyf is from Ice Age.
Oh wow, okay, so it's old school.
Yeah, so they really actually had something they could draw upon initially. They just chose to completely avoid it, And half of them have eyes, half of them don't. It just is weird.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is a bit strange. But I do like this. I like this cycle a lot, especially for this format. As you've already said, it's sort of a fill your graveyard up. So it's just cool how well that would probably interact, with alongside Threshold. These are very nice. Next, we've got Partick Firecat. And Diligent Farmhand, and these are cards that interact with Muscle Burst and Flame Burst from the previous sets, correct?
Yep.
So Partick Firecat, 4 mana, 2/3 haste cat creature, and if it's in a graveyard, Flame Burst effect counts it as a Flame Burst. It's kind of weird wording that they had to do, but it makes sense. And then Diligent Farmhand, which is 1 green for a 1/1, then you can pay 1 and a green and sack it, get any basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped. And then if it's in a graveyard, Muscle Burst effect counts it as a Muscle Burst. Big fan of Diligent Farmhand. I feel like that was designed very nicely, very smoothly. right? Don't you feel like that? Because it's
Yeah.
like it's ramping me, it's powering up my muscle bursts. Partick Firecat, a little bit less so, since there's no easy way to get it in your graveyard. You know?
Yeah. Short of sacrificing it yourself, I guess.
Yeah, or just like finding a good opportunity to chump block with it, I guess. But
Yeah.
what was the reasoning for only doing it for 2 of the 5 cycle cards, do you think?
Um, my guess is that they felt like those were the 2 most worthwhile and limited, you know, or the ones that wouldn't be. I really have no idea, I guess, but that would be where I would approach it from, you know.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It is. It does seem a bit strange that they didn't do it for the other ones. Maybe they just ran out of space. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yep, both of those cards pretty playable. 2/3s are good and limited, so that one's fine. And then, you know, getting a chump block plus a sack effect and extra lands is always good too. So cool. Next we have the Hound Cycle, and this was the actual cycle that was the inspiration for us starting the cyclical evolution segment. So very fun to finally get to do this one. We've got Patrol Hound in white, which is a 2-mana 2/2. Discard a card from your hand and it gets first strike. Phantom Whelp, 2-mana 2/2 in blue. Whenever it attacks or blocks, return it to its owner's hand at end of combat. Filthy Cur, 2-mana 2/2 in black. Whenever it's dealt damage, you lose that much life. Mad Dog, 2-mana 2/2. At the end of your turn, if it didn't attack or come under your control this turn, sacrifice it. And then Wild Mongrel, 2-mana 2/2, very classic one. Discard a card from your hand and it gets +1/+1 and becomes the color of your choice until end of turn. So not only good with Threshold, but insane with Madness, which we'll see out of the next set. So Wild Mongrel, far and away the best of this cycle. Is there any argument there?
I think that's an easy hands down.
Yeah. All of them actually seem kind of crappy, other than Patrol Hound actually seems kind of legit, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
That one seems fine for limited. But why are the other ones so bad? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't really get it either. I don't know what their problem was. Like, they had no love for any of the other ones.
Yeah, they really didn't. Filthy Cur is just terrible. You could just take a million damage. Phantom Whelp, it's like, I guess because it's a blue creature that's relatively cheaply costed, but maybe if you have a bunch of value for every time creature enters the battlefield, I guess. If there was some
but I'm not sure that they even had that
in this
at this time.
in this block.
Yeah.
And then Mad Dog, I mean, has to attack each turn, or you have to discard it, or sacrifice it. So who wants to do that?
Right.
Yeah. So that's just kind of a funny cycle. Just because it's a Hound cycle, it's clearly a cycle, but Wild Mongrel just far and away is the best one. Don't you feel like they should have put a discard a card from your hand effect on each of them?
Yeah, I actually do.
That's strange that they didn't.
I think that, they really missed it with... I mean, it could have been something as simple as, like, either the drawback or you discard a card. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yeah. And actually, Mad Dog is... I don't know. That one just is so shitty, too. They're all shitty. What am I talking about? And the fact that Patrol Hound and Wild Mongrel both got the discard effect?
Yeah. It's just
kind of weird.
Not only did they not have a drawback, but they have an ability that makes them better.
Yeah.
So that was just very strange cycle, but funny catching up on that one. All right, next we have Volcanic Spray and Howling Gale. Volcanic Spray is 1 in a red sorcery with flashback for 1 in a red, and it deals 1 damage to each creature without flying and each player. And then we have Howling Gale, which is 1 in a green instant, deals 1 damage to each creature with flying and each player, and it also flashbacks for 2, 1 in a green. What was the comment you said about this? Why would they print these if they had, like, Breath of Daragaz, right?
Yeah, they were, like, right on the tail of Breath of Daragaz and Canopy Surge, so it's just, like, they don't really appeal, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, for 4 mana, you can deal 2 damage to each player and each creature, so... But it's only without flying. Yeah, it's strictly worse than Breath of Daragaz, sadly. But like you said, this is sort of a time where they were starting to underpower cards, right? I mean, coming off of Urza's Saga, it was too strong, so they felt like they needed to make stuff significantly weaker. Did they still do the Tombstone next to flashback cards?
I don't know that they do it anymore.
I
I
don't
think
think
that
they
they
do
just,
either, but to be honest, I kind of liked it. I kind of miss it.
yeah, it was a good indicator, but I think that it didn't really serve a purpose beyond that, and
Yeah,
that's why they got rid of it.
but I want to see a little tombstone. I like it.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it definitely works.
Yeah. Well, it's really cool, because like you said, it is a good indicator. Your graveyard's stacked up, so you can really only see the name of each card. So it would be nice
Hmm.
to know how many flashback cards you're dealing with. Anyway, moving on, we've got Trimble, Simplify, and Innocent Blood. Trimble is 1 and a red sorcery. Each player sacks a land. Simplify is 1 green. Each player sacks an enchantment. And then Innocent Blood is 1 black. Each player sacks a creature. What do you think about this cycle?
I like this one, and I kind of wish they had done a little more with it. Like added a white and blue one.
Yeah. Because you're right, it's only 3 out of the 5, so they could have easily
But
done it.
I don't really know what they could have done. I mean, actually, they could have brought back curfew for the blue one, where everybody has to return a creature to his or her hand.
Okay.
That would have been fine, but I don't know. Other than that,
Innocent Blood, very popular cards, played a lot. I've never actually seen Simplify before, so I imagine that just never saw play. It's kind of an awkward card because it's sacrifice and enchantment. It's actually amazing to see something that can deal with Sterling Grove, right?
hmm
Or whatever the
yeah,
does that one have? It
it
can't
gives
be the target.
everybody or all your other enchantment shroud.
Oh, okay. Well, just getting past the Shroud enchantment alone is kind of unusual.
Hmm.
And
Well, it
then
at least would open the way to get in, like to destroy the Sterling or another spell. Like if they wanted to sack their Sterling Grove to that.
yeah, that's true. Um, yeah, so that one's very unusual. But Trimble, even each player sacking a land for 2. If you're an aggressive red deck, I can see that in multiples being really powerful. I mean, if you're ahead on the board, sacking lands maybe is less a big deal to you and maybe a huge deal to your opponent. But then again, they get the choice of which one they want to sack, so maybe it's not as devastating as I want it to be.
Yeah.
But Innocent Blood, very good card. Definitely saw a lot of play. Very cool card, too. Next, we have the Rites spells. So, Rites of Initiation, another card that made its way into Vintage Masters. This is the red one that lets you... They're all discard any number of cards. A couple of them are sorceries, the rest are instants, but basically you discard any number of cards from your hand, and then you get a effect based multiplied by how many cards you discard. So Rites of Initiation gives your creatures +1/+0 for each card. Sacred Rites gives your guys +0/+1 for each card. Rites of Refusal, mana leaks for each card you discard. Last Rites lets you look at your opponent's hand and choose cards and make them discard it for each card you discard. And then Rites of Spring, which lets you search for that many basic land cards and put them in. I think to me, the Rites of Initiation was kind of the most powerful, but I'm an aggro player, so kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I always thought that one was cool though too.
Mm-hmm.
I like Rites of Spring though too.
Okay, what about the other ones?
I think that they were all kind of meh otherwise.
Yeah, I agree.
They reminded me a lot of the Scent cycle from Urza's block, which was just better because you only had to reveal cards.
Yeah, good point. I mean, you potentially lose a lot of value with this, and it really just doesn't seem worth it for cards like Last Rites, where you have to lose 2 to get rid of 1.
Mm-hmm.
Sacred Rites, where you have to lose, just buffing defense doesn't seem that good. Toughness, rather. And then Rites of Refusal, it's just so much work to mana leak it or counter, So,
Mm-hmm.
I think you make a good point. But Rites of Initiation, awesome spell. Definitely won some Vintage Masters games with that in Mono Red Goblins. Very powerful. Moving on, we've got the continuation of the Tog Cycle. So we were going to bring in all the previous Togs we've seen, but we're already at the point where there's just too many. So Thaumatog is a green-white Tog, 1/2. You sack a land, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Sack an enchantment, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Sarkatog is the black-red one. It's a 1/2. They're all 1/2s. Sarkatog lets you exile 2 cards in your graveyard and give it +1/+1 until end of turn, and then sack an artifact and gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Phantatog is the blue-white one. You can sack an enchantment, give it +1/+1, discard a card from your hand, and give it +1/+1. Lithatog, sack an artifact, boost it, sack a land, boost it. And then finally, we have Psychotog, which dominated Standard forever. Just forever. Everybody was playing Tog Upheaval. Was an obnoxious archetype. Very not fun to play against. But Psychotog is the blue-black one, and you can discard a card from your hand, give it +1/+1, and then exile 2 cards from your graveyard and give it +1/+1. So clearly broken alongside cards like Upheaval, where you're just going to be able to tap all your mana, play Upheaval, post-combat, play Upheaval, play Psychotog, and then next turn they have nothing on board except 1 land, and you can basically discard and exile everything and win the game.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit, they just didn't realize it, I think, right?
Yeah. I think definitely they didn't realize it.
Just how good it was going to be. I mean, it overshadows the other ones so much that I didn't even know these other Togs existed, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. It's like it has the best synergy among itself, too.
Yeah. It's just insanely good. And it's in control colors, which makes it even more annoying. So that was just a crazy cycle. And there's more Togs to come, so eventually. I'm sure eventually we'll have a page that's just full of so many Togs, your head's going to explode. Next we have a very cool rare cycle. We've got Master Apothecary in white, Patron Wizard in blue, and Ceton Croson Protector in green. The Master Apothecary is a 3-white 2/2 cleric creature, and you can tap an untapped cleric, including itself, might I add, to prevent 2 damage to any target. Patron Wizard, 3 blue for a 2/2. You can tap an untapped wizard and counter spell unless they pay 1, so 4 spike for each wizard. And then Ceton lets you, for 3 green for a 2/2, and it lets you tap an untapped druid you control to add a green to your mana pool. So why is Ceton a legend but the others are not?
He is just the legendary creature from green, basically.
Okay.
I don't know. There's nothing more to say about it, really. He just is that position, you know.
See. So they had to make him a legend, okay. So why didn't they just make the Patron and Apothecary legends, too?
Yeah, I have no idea why they decided to do that. Like, there were probably some other green cards they could have done it, and as a legendary creature, he's pretty lackluster. The other thing is that in multiples, they don't really do anything extra, you know?
So
there's really no reason to do it.
Yeah.
But they just decided to do it.
Which one's your favorite? I feel like Master Apothecary must have been ridiculous and limited.
Yeah, I think that one could have been really good. I don't know how many clerics there were available to make use of it, though.
Yeah.
But I do feel like that one was probably one of the better ones.
Yeah, I agree. Because don't druids, in the case of Ceton, typically already tap for mana?
Yeah, I think they do. So it already doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's weird. Patron Wizard seems fine, though.
Yeah.
If you have enough wizards on board, you just keep your opponents off spells.
Himself, and that's the good thing about that cycle is that they just tap themselves for the effect too.
Yeah, that is cool. I like that. So other than the fact that Ceton just seems out of place and kind of underpowered, the other two are very good. Next, we have the Thought Cycle. So we have Thought Nibbler, Thought Eater, and Thought Devourer. Thought Nibbler is 1 blue for 1/1 flying, and your maximum hand size is reduced by 2. Thought Eater is a 2-mana 2/2 flying. Your maximum hand size is reduced by 3, and then Thought Devourer is a 4-mana 4/4 flyer, and your maximum hand size is reduced by 4. They're all beast creatures, but they don't really look like beasts to me.
Yeah, they should have been illusion.
Yeah, I think that would have made more sense, at least from how the pictures are sort of showing them.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, what did you think about these cards? I mean, reducing your maximum hand size can be pretty devastating, especially in multiples.
Yeah, I think that they're not that great overall, in multiples at least. But it's a cool effect. It's cool to try it out, and it does work in a graveyard-themed threshold block,
Yeah, because you just discard them. Maybe you want them there anyway for threshold. Maybe these would have been cool if they had like access to threshold on them in addition to reducing your maximum hand size.
Mm-hmm.
So then there was some sort of like overlap there, but maybe it was just too much. But yeah, I mean, 4 mana, 4/4 flying is pretty efficient, but reducing your hand size by 4 can be pretty harsh.
Yeah.
All right, next we have the Sphere Cycle. So, these are all white spells. Sphere of Truth prevents 2 damage from white sources. Sphere of Reason prevents 2 damage from blue sources. Sphere of Law prevents 2 damage from each red source, I should say. Sphere of Grace prevents 2 damage from each black source, and Sphere of Duty prevents 2 from each green source. And I should definitely specify, it only prevents the damage if it would be dealt to you, not to just any target. But what did you think about this cycle?
It was pretty cool, I guess. I mean, it's debilitating against a red deck to have Sphere of Law out.
Yeah, I agree. It seems really good if your opponent's just playing a deck that's got like a bunch of 2-power dudes. I mean,
yeah, and Sphere of Grace seems like way too good too. But, I don't know what else to say about it.
yeah, because they just can't even deal with enchantments. They have no way.
Yeah.
So, geez. Yeah, these are, it's like they keep trying different things with white, and I feel like we just consistently are like, too good, too good. Just consistently been like that. Even in an underpowered set like this, these cards still seem very powerful for limited.
Yeah.
And it seems like something they probably would not print nowadays. It also takes up 5 slots in a set, which is typically ugly,
Yeah.
Too much. Next we have some Pilgrim cards, and I think these are the last cards in this the set for this set cycle. So we have Pilgrim of Virtue, which is 2 and a white for a 1/3 pro black. You can sack it, and the next time a black source of your choice would deal damage this turn, prevent it. And then Pilgrim of Justice, which is pro red, and you can sack it, and next time a red source of your choice would deal damage, prevent that damage. And they're 1/3s. What do you think about these guys? Too good, or
too good?
Once again,
I don't know why they continue to do this, and in a set where you've already got the Sphere of Grace and Sphere of Law, it's just like, come on, dude.
You didn't need these two. It's true. They really made that white hate black and red a lot.
And giving them protection is already just like, why? Why are you giving them protection,
Yeah. They should just have their activated ability. And they fuel. It's nice that they fuel your threshold as well, which is kind of cool. So, yeah, just insanely good. Once again. I think that's it. Yep, that's it for this week's Mortarpod. Sorry if it felt a little bit rushed, but Odyssey is just huge. We had to get through it. Jake, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yep.